Nigeria has a range of security breaches that is costing the nation money. Chief amongst them, oil theft, which is costing Africa's largest economy billions in revenue loss and hampering its ability to defend its currency, the naira. Is there anything the private sector can teach the government on enterprise security? Well, joining us to answer that question is Wale Olaoye. He's the Group Managing Director of Halogen Group, a security solutions firm. You're very welcome, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. So I want to put you on the spot because this is a big issue. So from your perspective, looking at the vast pipelines in the nation,
yes,
what kind of security apparatus can be put forward to try and end oil theft in this nation?
Very quickly, I just have a question.
Yes.
This is saying that where your treasure is,
yes,
is where your heart is.
Yes.
And if you take learning from what the prices do with the private sector,
yeah,
I'll just give an example.
Okay.
If we pick, say, Coca-Cola, for instance.
Okay.
Say, look, listen, their main business is to get as many bottles of Coca-Cola as possible in the marketplace.
Yeah.
That's what makes them succeed. That's the reason for being.
Yeah.
So, in that enterprise that you see, even in Nigeria, they've taken the notion that without security risk framework, they will ensure that they're able to produce what they do optimally from the factory to the supply chain, to the market. You provide a framework that will guarantee that the output of the bottles that they produce is one, optimal, safe, secured in the market, sold in the market, and to avoid contamination as much as possible as they can.
Right.
Now they have a humongous, as simple as you see, as that is, they have a humongous enterprise security risk management framework.
I see where you're going.
That allows that to happen.
Right.
So, Nigeria, at least for now, our mainstay is oil. We're basically suffering a total neglect of doing the needful prior to now. If you take Angola, Libya, Saudi Arabia, look at the state of their oil assets.
Right.
The production lines, the pipelines, and the quality of risk management framework that has gone into that by design.
Right.
So it's a system. You ask yourself a question again that, look, just to go to the government, they've been doing something.
Right.
But the questions to ask, one, how far, what has the Deep Blue project achieved? The Deep Blue project, well thought out, massive investment, a good system to ensure that, to help NIMASA work with the Navy to protect our national assets. The second question is, there's the SPOMO Act, the suppression of piracy and other maritime offences Act.
Right.
How has that been activated in our economy? How have they gone? What was done about it? So, with those two questions, because there's other things that government have done really in recent terms. Last year was the president launched the Deep Blue project, and with some sophisticated assets that were acquired for NIMASA to work with the Navy. Right. So, the question is, what has happened? How is Deep Blue working? Right. How effective is it? Right. But don't forget, a good example of an enterprise is a whole system. You don't solve all these problems with boots on ground. Okay. What are the detection systems around our oil assets, from the production platforms to pipelines for crude and pipelines even for marketing products, from Mosimi to Atlasco, for instance, to all the areas of Nigeria. So, what's the state of those assets? So, what are the detection systems that has been put into that framework? How do you deter? So, what are deterrence systems? How do we defend? What are the defense systems? Then, how do we respond if indeed something has really gone wrong? So, what are the response systems? So, as I said, it is a system. Right. And we have left the major undone and ignoring the capabilities that exist in the private sector today in Nigeria. There are quite a few companies that are sophisticated and that are working with even the IOCs as I speak today. Okay. Companies like maybe ours. Right. So, who have taken this thing seriously. So, is to ask the questions around the entire system. In the oil and gas industry, for instance, globally today, there are private companies working with governments to ensure that the entire value chain is sustainable.
Yeah.
Look, for us, it's pathetic. How do you, I read that, look, between January and July, we've lost 28 million barrels of crude.
It's quite a lot.
Threatening our 9.37 trillion government budgets. So little wonder. So if you look at national security itself, it's becoming an issue of national security. Why? Because it's putting pressure on our ability as a nation to defend our currency. So there are matters that will require holistic systems. Like I said to you now, so again, go back to investment.
Right.
We haven't invested in those pipelines for a very long time.
Right.
So part of the leakage, look, let's take the non-invasive intrusion, just basic leakages alone. If you look at the pipeline, I'm not talking of crude, I'm talking of just refined products. We're in some of those pipelines where when the dead pulp make those things liquid, some of those pipelines are now able to deliver optimally, to deliver at the other end the volumes that are.Hy? Because all those pipes are corroded.
Right.
They are no longer the type that will guarantee full security today. We're sinking gas pipelines across Africa now.
Yeah, want to go to North Africa, Europe.
If you look at that system that they're using today, they are good systems because they already have detection systems where you can detect leaks and leakages or tamper. Our pipelines today are not like that. So and we need to also look at that aspect of protection.
Yeah.
So the quality of the assets, the systems that ensure that the entire value chain, the entire protection system meets the requirement of safety. You don't leave your house open and expect that you're prosperous.
All right.
So we basically have our regas opened. In the age that we are today, don't forget that today cybersecurity has become even an issue in critical national assets.
I wanted to get to that, yeah.
And there are ways to engage that. And we cannot, Bible tells me that you cannot put new wine in old wine skin.
Right.
It will burst at the seams. We're simply confronted by those kind of issues today. And the fundamental solutions exist, not with boots on the ground alone, but with the holistic systems that I just described to you.
Yeah.
How do we detect? How do we deter? How do we defend? How do we respond? The system.
Yeah.
And the private sector perhaps also have a role to play in that. We take the lessons that we learned from enterprise.
Yeah.
Yes.
I went through, curveball. That's oil and gas. Pensions.
Correct.
Earlier this week,
Yes.
PENCOM, the regulator in the pensions industry, said there are workers, that retirees, faking their own deaths,
Yes.
so they can collect pensions, pension payments.
Absolutely.
Well, how do you crack down on that?
Look,
Data?
there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
We are evolving as a country, as a nation.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we're beginning to realize that we now live in a digital economy, and
Right.
that's a reality.
Yeah.
Look, there's been insurance theft that has been existing for years.
Yeah.
So in developed economies, how do they tackle it? The first thing is, if you don't know who you are, first and foremost, then secondly, how do we deal with the issue of identity in our country? How do we begin to understand the role of private sector in dealing with very similarly little things? The police cannot handle everything.
Right.
In developed economies, you have insurance investigators, you have insurance security companies. All they do is to investigate insurance fraud. So what you just spoke about is part of insurance fraud. And there are means to do that. And the private sector is perfectly suited today in Nigeria to do that. Don't forget, the Police Act of 2020 just gave credence that now you can have private investigations as a business in Nigeria, which is in the Police Act. So discerning companies today use the services of some companies that have these capabilities to basically do what you call the pre-engagement investigation, identity management, pre-employment verification and background check of people.
Yeah.
You can also, today in insurance, you can begin to have preventive insurance investigations that are able to deal with issues of insurance theft and also insurance fraud, and leveraging on identity management. A few weeks ago, some private companies got together to form the Association of Background Check and Verifications of Nigeria. Okay. Now, it's an attempt to announce that the economy is getting more sophisticated, and we're arriving there. So there's a lot inherent in the private sector private security practice to begin to help from PENCOM to the insurance companies to deal with these things when we do this issue of identity. So again, when we deal with this issue of identity management, because that's the big subject matter, that also begin to help to deal with issues of fraud in this manner.
Cybersecurity. I want to quickly, we spoke with our RISE business analyst, Michael Wilson, and also a player in the real estate sector. I want you to listen to what they had to say about cybersecurity from an international level and then domestic. Let's take a listen.
Okay.
Companies need to be very, very aware of what's going on. I mean, it was only yesterday, wasn't it, when we were noting that the Norwegian sovereign wealth fund, which is the largest one in the world, is experiencing 100,000 cyber attacks every year. 10, I think it was 1,000 of which are very serious. They were saying so it's 3 attacks a day on their sovereign wealth fund, effectively, which are very, very serious indeed. I mean, we live in perilous times, and wars are being fought in asymmetric places. I mean, that's the difference.
We are on the ground, so we know who is manufacturing what kind of product. We know who is.
Real estate services firms and construction firms are attacked by, cyber attack. The reason being that the amount of money we deal with, the transaction value, the costs and the pricing, all that on a daily basis is significant. And so it does provide some form of interest for those who are interested in harvesting this kind of data and then, of course, selling it on the black market.
Another, how do we deal? Are we dealing with that enough here? It's a big issue. Norway's sovereign wealth fund, I mean.
Fortunately in our case, that's part of our business. And it's a big part of our business. We are already in the reality. Let me give you some example. Those, at the lowest level. A few years ago, you couldn't travel between Aba, Onitsha, and Lagos in a bus without being robbed by armed robbers. I hope you remember those days. Those days are now far gone. Why? Because the risk has moved elsewhere. As long as all of us hold this device, and we moved our assets here, our cash assets is here, there will be attempts at getting to those assets. And the entire world, we say today, our world is open. So if you're not, even from outside of Nigeria, people's funds are attacked. We have clients whose businesses have been attacked from the payment gateways, from the payment systems. So they have the sites cloned. Clients, they're trying to transfer money for services abroad, and they're paying to cloned accounts, even as far back as in China and in North America. So that's the reality. And the good thing is this: for us in Nigeria, with the level of technology, our young people in technology and what we can do, what we do today, we discover that quite a lot of the OEMs have found inroads here, but using Nigerians to implement. So we saw that as a gateway to begin also to understand the need to build capacity and to learn. It's going to get worse.
That's cybersecurity.
Oh yeah, because 5G, we're on the brink of 5G.
Right.
So today's cybersecurity in Nigeria is driven only around those businesses that are regulated. So from financial services, insurance, and telcos, they're the biggest cybersecurity services today. That's because of the reality of what they do and the regulation that drives them to do that. Now, once 5G kicks in, you can imagine what IoT exposure.
That's Internet of Things.
Absolutely. The speed of IoT engagement, the speed of transactions, the speed at which you see those cameras you see, ordinary cameras you see, home cameras, they become at risk. Then as you also elevate, we just spoke about oil and gas industry today. Now you can imagine what it does to power, infrastructure, water. Now,
as everything gets more connected,
you can imagine that because we live to become an interconnected world. That becomes the world. That becomes the platform over which things are done. So with 5G, the exposure it brings to our way of life, because it's become a lifestyle. Now, the propensity of attacks will now transcend. Today we say we lose close to $400 billion or so every year for financial services. Now, the domain of telcos and financial services will become willful, but the basic lifestyle, the basic enterprises that do business in the utilities area will become exposed to this risk. And then Internet of Things with 5G, the preparedness of the country around the risk of cyber
Yeah.
has to be improved. But by the way, there's a challenge.
We're almost out of time.
There's pressure on our currency.
Yeah.
Most of the support we have today are foreign. Why? Because the deployed systems we implement locally.
Yeah.
What we're doing as a business is this, in our business. We're currently developing capacity for young Nigerians to take this, to come into the space and to become more creative in developing local solutions as we implement global OEM devices.
With safety as the number one
solutions in Nigeria.
Okay.
And safety, key, is Nigerians today we're 80% in the awareness phase. That's what the market is. So it's the awareness, it's the understanding, and creating local capabilities to address the solution.
Fantastic.
That's why it comes like us. We're currently training 40,000 Nigerians, youth, working with Ministry of Youth and Sports to ensure that we train 40,000 Nigerians within the next 6 months in the awareness phase of cybersecurity.
Mr. Wale Olaoye, GMD, Halogen Group, thank you so much. An expansive discussion on security in Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time. I'll have to have you back.